Easy. Well, I think I've caught the government out on a lie when it comes down to COVID deaths. I have with me a rather interesting table of figures from the Office for National Statistics here. And what this is a tally of overall deaths from 1990 to 2020. Over a 30-year period, recorded number of deaths, not taking into account any reason for deaths, just overall number of deaths. And the figure for 2020 is somewhat interesting. Now, you would have thought that the figure for 2020 because of COVID would be very high. Well, it is higher than average, but it is not the year with the highest number. In fact, there are 6 years that had, in fact, no, 5 years rather, that had higher figures of deaths than 2020. Now, in 2020, there's recorded number of deaths as 561,000. And the years that had more deaths than 2020 were 1990, 91, 93, 95 and 96. And then the trend started to come down from 1996, where the number of deaths gradually got lower until we hit the best year for the lowest number of deaths, which was in 2011. And in 2011, we had 484,000. But then it started to rise again slightly after that, a kind of an increasing trend. Now, the interesting thing is that if we look at the figure for 2020 against that of the best year in 2011, the difference is 77,162. Now, that's judging it based on the best year. Now, you would think that the best way to predict 2020 to decide on how good it is would be to work it based on the figure for 2019. And in 2019, there were 530,000 deaths, which means in 2020, there was only 31,000 more deaths than in 2019. So, from these figures, you would probably deduce that the number of COVID deaths that we're looking at, or those people who died from COVID and not any other related thing, would be round about 35,000. And that's a generous estimation, is that. I would say it's more likely to be about 31,000, but let's say 35,000 to be generous. So the COVID deaths, as we know now, are being recorded where if you have tested positive for COVID and you happen to die of something else being the primary reason for deaths, you've been recorded as a COVID death. So, for example, if you tested positive a week ago and you happen to be a little bit careless crossing the road yesterday and you got ran over, then the clear cause of death would be impact from a vehicle. But it's being recorded as a COVID death because COVID is being included on the death certificate, and that's the reason why we are now over 100,000. But the people who have actually died where COVID is the actual killer is about 35,000 approximately. So it's clear from this that we are being lied to. And the over 100,000 is causing unnecessary fear for people, when in actual fact that 2020 wasn't the year that had a record number of deaths. That's what you would think if you listen to the mainstream media, that we've had a record number of deaths in 2020, and it's just simply not true. So I'm afraid the figures here don't stack up. Now, I'm not saying that they are blatantly lying. I think that they're manipulating the figures in order to create this narrative of fear. And if they're keeping us all scared, then we're all going to be less resistant to these lockdown measures, which are clearly a way to take your rights, your freedoms, your wealth, your business, and enforce government control on us all. Would you say that this piece of information blows that apart? I would say it certainly calls it into question at the very least. and the fact that the figures are, in fact, a manipulation and not the true figures of people who have died. Just saying. Just facts, man. Just letting the facts do the talking. Thank you for watching. Till next time. Easy.